Welcome to the Spaghetti Wall podcast, where we dive into life.
Both the messy parts and the moments of joy, and everything in between. I'm Jason Wilcox, licensed clinical social worker.
And I'm Dr. Thaen Saelee, a licensed clinical psychologist.
Today we're talking about change talk and sustain talk, or what I call stuck talk, as we reflect on what is keeping us stuck in our relationships.
Well, tell us more about what is that, why does it matter, and what does it look like?
I think to break it down simply, sustain talk or stuck talk is the thinking statements that we tell ourselves and others that keep us in the same patterns that may be creating agony, suffering, depression, anxiety in our life. And change talk is when we're moving towards our values and moving towards a life-giving action that is meaningful to us and what we care about. Finding a lot of clients coming to therapy wanting a certain change in their life, but the change is dependent on their loved one changing, right? So, here's an example: wanting their partner to eat healthier. And so, instead of allowing the partner to move through the stages of change and coming to their own terms, this individual is making healthy foods and dinners and meals and taking extra care and time to provide healthy options for their partner, and their partner still not choosing to eat them. And that's creating issues, discord, fights, right? Arguments, and frustration. And so, when I asked this client, why is it that you're still doing this behavior? The stuck talk was, well, if I don't do it, he's not going to do it.
Yeah, I hear a lot of different issues in there that we've talked about in other episodes we won't dive into, but, also identifying and being careful of we're not responsible for our partners. Also recognizing people are who they are. If you're in love with the person you believe they can change into, that's a huge problem and puts pressure on the relationship. If you are in love with the ideal person that you believe they are, that's another pressure on the relationship. But you're talking about the stuck talk in our own minds, or even saying out loud, where it's talking about, I'm doing this so that you be who I want you to be, and keeping you stuck in your own patterns is creating conflict in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. When you boil it down, Jason, I feel like from my perspective and my experience, personal and clinically, I think that stuck talk usually, or sustained talk, revolves around other people needing to change or external circumstances needing to change for us to be happy or to have a shift in our life, right? Where I think change talk really comes back to the person, what they're in control of, what they really care about, value-based actions and objectives. And so, each time an individual in therapy says, I really want to have a partner who can be around for a long time. And I also value being healthy so I can be around for my children and my partner. Then we start to lean into the change talk.
Change talk, when you look at change and sustained talk, it comes from the concepts of what's called motivational interviewing. So if you think of 4 quadrants of decision making, you have one quadrant that says, here's all the reasons that would be great to make this change. And here's all the reasons that would be horrible to stay the same. That's our change talk in those quadrants. Our stuck talk, our sustained talk, however you want to say it, that's the quadrants of there are so many benefits just staying the same. And look at all these issues and problems if I change. And so if you think about these things as our audience, that's what we're talking about when we talk about change talk and stuck talk. It's those quadrants.
I hear the stuck talk in the barriers, right? Like, it's too hard to do this, or I know this is going to happen, and I know this is going to be the outcome. They're kind of predicting the future, or say, well, I already know how this person's going to react, or I already know what's going to happen next.
Right. And that's the issues of change. So that's that quadrant right there, right? The consequences, issues, problems of change. That's the stuck talk, the sustained talk. That's one of the quadrants.
It shows up in that way and that language I'm trying to express, and how I see it as the therapist in the session.
Yeah. And so What do you feel like is the problem that starts happening when people use this? Are you talking about when they use it out loud with their partner or when they're just doing it in their mind?
Both. They do it out loud with their partners, they do it in their minds, and then it is processed and verbalized in therapy. And I think in that quadrant, usually for me, I try to help them see that it's very other focused and other needing others to validate what your fears and anxieties might be, or needing other people to change and take action, which we're really the change talk doesn't happen there. It happens within yourself.
Well, we're moving out when we start talking about somebody else, we're moving into what's called the fix-its. Another way other people say it is the writing reflex, right? Because our change talk and sustain talk can only be about us and our own internal, what we're going to change or not change. If we start looking at what we're going to try to make somebody else change or control what they do or don't do in their change process, now we're doing a fix-it. Because what we're doing is we're trying to take away someone else's autonomy and their choice and make them do what we want, which causes a whole new problem. And what normally happens is when we do a fix it on somebody and try to force them to do change, that normally pushes them in. If you think of those boxes I told you about earlier, it pushes them into the sustain talk. So their brain starts focusing on all the problems of what are the issues and consequences and downfalls of making that change. And what are all the benefits of just staying the same? Their brain goes there. And the second the brain starts focusing on things that are stuck in sustain talk, most people will start pushing away from change, which now if we talk in relationship, this is going to cause a conflict in the relationship because now you have somebody that wants to make these internal changes for themselves. They're pushing change for this other person, which is now causing the fix-its to happen. And that's going to cause the conflict because the other person is going to push back even more. Where they might have made this change if they didn't have the push, but because they have the push, that fix-it pushed on them, they're now going to push against it because that's just the natural reaction of the brain.
So, Jason, when you meet with couples and this shows up, how do you help them navigate this in therapy or in just having difficult conversations with each other or processing it on their own?
Well, it's complex, right? Because first and foremost, the simple way of looking at it is just the communication part. The communication part is don't do the fix-its. It's so critical and important to honor your partner's autonomy. They are an individual that has their own choices. They choose, for like the example you've given, eating healthy, that's their choice. They can choose to eat healthy or not eat healthy. They can choose to eat in a way that extends their life. They can choose to eat in a way that takes away life in the end. That's totally up to them. You do not get to control that. And if you try to apply control to make them change, it's just going to cause the tension in the relationship. So first and foremost is just communication. So don't apply the fix-its on somebody. You got to honor autonomy and choice. They get to choose what they want to do. If you have concerns about it and want to talk about it, then you move back to assertive communication. You just tell them, hey, this is the behavior I'm seeing. This is the concern I have of what's going to happen. And I just want to be able to have a healthy conversation around that, knowing that at the end of that conversation, they get to choose whatever they want to choose. The more complex area of this is the person that's feeling the need to do the fix it and to get stuck in the stuck talk. That person is why. Why is their brain going there? Is it a reactionary state to a negative core belief? Is it some kind of a fear of what their partner is or could be and has to do with anxieties? So there's the why. What's going on behind the behavior in the first place? And so in couples counseling, we would look at that why. What's actually happening on a deeper end? And can we remove that so their brain isn't constantly going to this reactive, I need to fix my partner state?
Yeah, I have a similar process too with individual therapy clients of looking at what is underneath that force or what's propelling you and pulling you to want to fix your partner. And usually we do come back to a negative core belief, a
Yep.
fear that I'm going to be alone, a fear that I don't feel picked or chosen, or I don't feel good enough for him to change or her to change. And so then we start working on these negative core beliefs with the individual instead of focusing on the partner changing.
Yeah, I mean, because as you start getting centered in yourself, and I think of a centered state as kind of like the negative core beliefs have been kind of removed or put at bay, you just feel the centeredness that you truly feel okay that your partner has choice here. And it's okay if they choose that, you know what, they want to live a shorter life with lots of junk food. Hey, that's their choice. That's their right. And processing through that fear of, okay, if they do have a little bit of a shorter life, what does that mean for you? And what does that look like? And processing through that fear and what I call the boogeyman effect, because the brain will latch on to that fear and then make it a boogeyman inside the own mind and create even more anxiety. And it's this ripple effect. But I think coming back to your original point of our brain gets caught in this stuck talk of wanting to fix these situations and control things around it. It's important to recognize first and foremost, you can't do that for your partner. And when you're looking at yourself, it's going back to something you said. So first, it's just moving back to you only have control of you, so focus on you. If you're going to make healthy food, for the example that you have, then why are you doing it? Make sure it's about you. And how are you going to do it effectively for yourself? And look at the ways to be effective for you, letting your partner be what they need to be and who they need to be.
There's a different route. I also support my clients in getting to this place and landing to this place of, oh, I need to come back to me. And I usually ask the question of, when you think about fixing your partner or fixing the situation in your partnership, how do you feel in your body?
Mhm.
And usually I have individuals check in with their jaw. Is your jaw really tight? Is there clenching anywhere in your body? Is your fist tight? Like, are there pressure coming in your chest? Do you feel stuckness in your throat? So we start to like embody what's happening with their body and noticing that. And it brings it back to them. And I try to help them realize this is how it's impacting you. When you hold on to this belief or you start this pattern again and this behavior, this is the impact on your body and your nervous system. There's a heightened state, there's a bracing or clenching for something bad to happen. It increases anxiety, it increases your brain's thinking that you're in threat mode, right? Something's threatening. And so when we bring it back to that, clients are able to go, oh, wow, yeah, this is impacting me in a way. And then I teach them how to shift that, to release that, to discharge that, and to start asking question of like, what would it be like if we sat with that and just noticed that? And then sometimes a shift starts to happen, or sometimes we have a cognitive reframe of maybe for now I can choose to let that go. I can choose to let go of the responsibility of my partner's health. And then things start to shift in the nervous system. So like somatically, there's another way to like support the individual in coming back to the self. And usually that supports the change talk because they're like, oh, wow, this actually felt really nice to let that go in my body.
Yeah, it's interesting what you talk about, right? One, it's great skills to learn how to do body work and to notice the body, how to work the body, all really great benefits there. Another model that I teach clients that can be really helpful is thinking of like a small inner circle and a large outer circle. Your inner circle is your circle of influence. The bigger outer circle is your circle of concern. And what fits in these circles, that smaller circle is kind of like what you have control over in life. And that bigger circle of what you have concern about is more of what you don't have control of in life. What I help clients see is when they're focused on the circle of concern, things they have no control over, which is other people, a lot of life circumstances you don't have control over. If you're focused on those things, your stress is going to go up. So you're going to feel it in the body like you're talking about. You're going to feel the muscles tense. You're going to feel stress. All those things are going to go up. Your results in life are going to go down. Your effectiveness in life is going to go down. You're going to feel like you're just running in circles, right? Like you're going to have frustrations in relationships. People aren't going to trust you as much because you're not as effective in life and they're going to push away. So there's a lot of negative consequences to focus on that area of life of what's in your circle of concern. And then I try to teach them and help them see that if you take and move to your circle of influence, which are mainly the things you can control in life, which is mainly you, you are far more effective in life. You get better results. Your stress is lower. Your anxiety is lower. Your depression's lower. Your tension in the body's lower and less. You just focus on what is it that you can control. So like the example you gave at the beginning, my partner is not eating healthy. That's a circle of concern issue, not the circle of influence. So you can't control your partner. They have choice. What you can control is you can have assertive conversation with them. You can bring some tools and resources to the table when you have that conversation to have the most effective possible conversation. And if you put your focus where your control is the healthy conversation around it, knowing you cannot control that other person, your circle of influence normally expands. So when we put our focus on the circle of concern, our circle of influence shrinks. When we put our focus on the circle of influence, where we actually have control of things, our influence can grow and expand. And we get all those wonderful benefits of our stress going down, anxiety going down, results going up, people trusting us more, things like that.
We are investing in ourselves and we're becoming more effective. We're becoming more healthy. We're becoming more expressive. People can see that and trust and influence goes up.
Absolutely. And when we're in that place where we are talking a lot of stuck talk, we're normally actually often thinking about things in our circle of concern. Because when we're thinking about our change talk of things that are benefits to make change, the consequences of staying the same, of what's going to make life improve, we often will start bringing our mind to the things we can control. Like, hey, I can switch out this ingredient with this ingredient. I can reduce my salt. I can do whatever. We're moving more towards the things we can kind of control in life that make our life better. But again, that has to be within your circle of control of you, not other people.
Yeah, and I think the last point here is like the expectation that if we change, then this person should change. Or, if I'm eating healthy, then why aren't they following in suit? So, like, really check your expectations when you are setting a goal for change in your own life and change that you can control. Is there an expectation that other people will follow? And if there is, that's something we have to check.
Yeah, it goes back to that control again, right? If I'm expecting someone else to do something, I'm actually starting to pass that line into trying to control somebody else. So we want to get away from being expectational, like we've talked about in other podcasts, and be invitational with our partners. And that just goes back to all the themes we're talking about. You can't expect your partner to change. You can converse about things you're concerned about. You can talk about things that you would like to see that would make things even healthier in the relationship. You can have those assertive conversations, but you cannot have an expectation for your partner to change. You can invite.
And I would say we will have expectations and we will feel disappointment. These things all exist, and it doesn't make our partner a bad person, or it doesn't mean that we're not with the right person. Like, people really go into this meaning channel. Like, if this doesn't happen, then it means this, right? So really I think I encourage that these things will exist and these things will happen and we will have expectations, notice them. It's hard to get rid of them. It's hard not to do the fix-its, but notice when it's happening and like sit with it. And I think sometimes being in the meaning channel and finding meaning in things and purpose in things is important. But when we start to assign negativity to things and taking negative meaning away from feeling disappointed or feeling neglected or feeling all these negative core beliefs, it doesn't really help the situation. So I would encourage individuals to stay away from the meaning channel when we're working on these things around change and sustained talk, right?
I've never heard that term before. I really love it, the meaning channel. And I would actually encourage people to just stay away from it altogether. If there's meaning, have your partner tell you what meaning is, not you.
Oh, yeah, let it be made explicit.
Correct. So if your partner says something or is doing something or is acting a certain way, be very careful of your brain getting caught in that meaning channel. Try to move it to the side and just go, what does this mean to the partner, right? Ask them, get clarification, make sure it's explicit so you know. Because when we assign meaning and we're caught in that meaning channel, that can really derail things.
we've had examples of this in other podcast discussion where, if you don't do this, then for me, it means you don't love me. So yeah, coming back to this statement and this example, just staying away from it is helpful, and asking and hearing it from your partner, what it means for them or why they're doing something, is very crucial in the communication.
Absolutely. Hopefully you enjoyed our conversation today, our podcast. Always reach out if you would like topics for us to address or if you'd like to come on the show. Follow us on our social media sites. We're on all the major sites, and always feel free to check out our couples counseling training that is on avidcounseling.org.
As always, we appreciate you listening. Thank you.